Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julene Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Today's show is going to change your thinking, so come on and join us. And today I'm going to try not to cry. Julene, are you ready for the truth about government inactivity?
Inactivity. Well, yeah, Deb, I just came back from a trip to Puerto Rico with some of my kids and husband a few days ago. And that's all I did was inactivity. So, we slept in every morning, then we rolled to the beach, and we rolled to the pool. Then I bought overpriced French fries from the resort. Then we came home and watched movies and stayed up late. And it was nothing but inactivity. So I am in that zone. It's been hard to come back to reality where I got to start working for a living again. So yes, let's talk about government inactivity today.
That is great, Julene. I wish I could have joined you in some of that inactivity. It is so good to see you today. But on the negative side of that, I'm disturbed by a trend in our country. A lot of people are disillusioned with the government. I was talking with a mom this week, and Julene, I just became so heartbroken by her attitude and her pain. She said she was discouraged and couldn't believe that elites and Democrats were fighting with Trump. She started crying and said, "My husband and I work very hard to make a few $1,000s a month to take care of our family. I watch my husband leave tired in the morning. He works hard for 12 hours a day and falls in bed at night. I try to supplement our salary as much as I can. We cut corners, do without, and hold on to our children and just pray that somehow this will all work out for our good." I'm remembering how upset she was, and it's making me want to cry. Sorry. At the same time, she said, we hear about government officials who come into the system with nothing but have accumulated $2 million a year on the side. They say they are fighting for us, and yet they are the ones that are fussing about tax cuts and cutting costs so we, the American people, can just have a little bit more money in our pockets. Why would they fuss about that? She went on to complain, "I don't get that. Gas is high, groceries are high, but when little families like ours have to come up with $1,500 a year for federal taxes, it's hard to want to keep trying. Why did they get to game the system and waste money while we struggled to feed our teenagers? It's just not fair." And by that time, we both were crying. And then she went on to say, "And all it does is make me more depressed and unable to talk about government officials in a kind way. I'm so disappointed when officials are committed to inactivity. They want things to just roll along like they've always been, with them at the top and us at the bottom. They allow the government to run away with our money. They claim they want to do something, but they never do. Their inability to work with others hurts people, and it's not right." Julene, she was just bawling, and I started crying because I know where she's at. I've been there. I instantly thought about the politicians who are raging against Musk and Trump for cutting out waste or deporting crime. And then I started crying, and I was mad. They aren't for Americans. They just want us to shut up and keep voting for them. Ugh. What do you think, Julene?
Oh, well, I think you're a dear, dear friend. I mean, when Jesus says to mourn with those that mourn, that's what you were doing with your sweet friend. And that means so much, just the listening ear and the empathy that you shared with her. I understand, Deb. It's hard to really get it, right? Why Americans or, our politicians aren't just thrilled at, the cleaning up of the waste and exposing the fraud that's going on. I think people that would be upset about cleaning house is because maybe they have stood to benefit from some of this transparent, enriching themselves of government monies, I guess, grifting from the system, thinking, what the heck, the government should, provide for me. And if there's a way that I can get some for me, I'm going to do it. And so otherwise, I think an honest, upstanding person would be nothing but thrilled by what is, what President Trump and his administration and Elon Musk are doing. They're standing up for America and the working class. And every single day, we're getting new announcements of how, they are bullish on America. They are bullish on Americans. They are working class people. And I think it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, I do too. I watched Brett Baer from Fox News do an interview with Elon Musk and the Doge team. It was an amazing interview and confirmed what I thought. Elon is there because he wants to do something big for this country. He doesn't want anything from the American people. He's trying to protect Americans. He wants to see America succeed. He cares about the hardworking mama I talked to. In the interview, Elon was with 7 other Doge men who have thriving businesses of their own, and all of them talked about how they wanted to give back and how they wanted to help America. Why would Democrats have a problem with men who want to do good unless they're judging them by themselves and they think no one wants to do good? But why do they always jump to negative assumptions? When I looked at the faces of the Doge team, it made it easy to tell that this is real for them. This is not a scam or a business steal. They truly want to help, and they see how all this fraud and abuse is hurting everyone in America, but especially moms like us.
Yes, yeah. I felt that as well. I heard Elon say the other day, what is the biggest business mistakes that he's ever made? And he said, I used to hire for talent, but he said, I now have started to hire for heart. I want them to have a good soul. I want them to, be honest and integritous and have a purpose. So I mean, this is what I'm putting some of the words in his mouth, but he said, I don't hire for talent anymore. I hire for their heart. And that means he's hiring because they've got a good core to them, an honest core. And, those are the kind of people that are going to make decisions based on what is right and what is true and what is principled versus, I think enemies of freedom, enemies of America want to get people in that emotional zone because then they can control you, right? That they don't necessarily want people to focus on facts or what really is going on because they can't control you then, right? So they want people to take counsel from their fears or from lies. And so, principled people with good hearts, good souls, a moral core, are going to do things for the right reason, And so I think that's so telling about Elon Musk, that he has realized that if you have a person that has a good moral core and foundation and heart, that's going to way surpass, a brilliant guy, but will do anything to get over.
Oh, you are so right, Julene. You are so right. And I love what Elon said, that he hires for the heart.
Yeah.
Politicians and elites on the left are flooding the airways with a gaggle of lies because I think they have to. They know that once the middle and lower class of America see that there is no way they can succeed in this kind of fraud and debt, the American people will always see them as frauds and thieves, and we will probably never vote for them again. They have to lie to keep their power, which is along the same lines that you were talking about. They want to keep us stupid so that we vote for them. They don't want us to know what they're doing. And Doge is exposing what they're doing.
Yeah. I think Democrats are staring down a deep popularity crisis. And, I've heard people say that the party's in disarray. I think that they're just in denial. They're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on, Donald Trump, and they need to be focusing on the Americans that they represent in their states and their constituency. But instead, we've got AOC and Bernie going on an American tour. And then we've got them protesting Elon Musk and his dealerships, and then we've got a whole gaggle of them out front of the Capitol, screaming about the democracy and the Constitution are going up in flames, and they're mad at their leader Chuck Schumer. They want to oust him. And so there's a lot of divisions and fissures right now, but I think that they are in denial and not really focusing on what the real problem is.
You're exactly right. I'm right there with you. And along those same lines, there was a second video with Elon sitting along with Brett Baier. And just like you're talking about all the things that the Democrats are doing, that really has lost the American people. Brett Baier asked him, you must watch that too. And if you find the video, when you start the video, go to the 9-minute, 28-second mark. Because through the whole video with his team, he had talked about what we just said, about caring, about heart, about being worried about the American people. And then there's this little section where it's just him and Brett. And Brett asked him what keeps him awake at night. And I'm sitting there watching it, and it probably went on for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, where Elon just stared at the floor. And I thought, is something wrong? Is Brett gonna... But you could see he was really thinking about the problem. And then he sat up and he said, I stay awake at night worrying about the birth rate. And of course, me and you as mamas, we think about that. So it brought him from thinking about all these things that are going on with the Democrats and thinking about all the stuff that he's doing with Doge to save things. But what really kept him up at night is what we worry about, the birth rate. And he said it is very low in almost every country. And unless that changes, civilization will disappear. And America last year had the lowest birth rate that we've ever had. And in places like Korea, the birth rate is a third of the replacement needed. And in 3 generations, Korea will be a third of its current population. Now, what that meant was as people die off, they're not having enough babies to replace them. So in the next decade, Korea could be a third less or a third smaller. And he said nothing seems to be turning that around. And then he said this huge thing, humanity is dying. When he said that, I was crying because I saw deep concern from him for all of humanity. And I also saw drops of tears welling up in his eyes. Now, they never did run over, but they were there. I connected with his feelings, and 2 things happened. When you do your research and you truly listen to the emotions and feelings of the person you want to know, you can understand if they're telling you the truth or not. And I've heard Elon and President Trump talk about caring for other people. Elon has said he can't do Doge unless he cares. That's an amazing observation. Why would you push to find all the misplaced money if you didn't care about the little mamas like me and you, Julene, who are trying to feed our children? Of course you have to care. The second thing is that it brings in the abortion issue, because I was thinking about how he cares about each little baby that is not born, that he wants us to have a good birth rate. That is amazing. And so what it's building is my whole imagination of who and what Elon really is. And I may not care or like everything that he does, but what I'm finding out is that he does care about people. And it's one thing to scream and say you care about our middle class, but it's totally different to put yourself in that person's shoes. And it seems like that's what Elon's doing. And I can relate to that. In fact, it makes me want to walk into the White House, and if I could see President Trump or Melania or anyone else who's working hard to make this country better, I just want to reach out, and I know they wouldn't let me, but I'd love to hug them and say, thank you. I know that I couldn't do something like that, but I would love to say it to their face. Thank you. Thank you for caring about me and my family. Thank you that you aren't worried about verbal attacks, that you're willing to leave your good life to make sure I have a chance at a good life. That's sacrificial love, and I so appreciate it. Maybe that little mama that I was talking to could go on a vacation. Or maybe my children will have success and live a good life. How do you say thank you properly for someone who clears the path so you can be successful? You can't do justice to it. That's overwhelming. That's why I'm not a Democrat. And I wish the Democrats could hear me talk about this and realize that I'm talking about more than just a protest or screaming or saying, I'm going to fight for you. I want to see their emotions for me. I've looked for those emotional ties with Democrats, and I've looked with a clean heart, expecting to find it in the Democratic Party. But I've never seen that kind of profound emotion that stirs the heart. They talk about big game. They like to yell and cuss and protest, but I've never seen them actually do or say something that is profoundly caring about another person. They stand in a soup line, but they never reach and hug that person. I've seen them do that. They don't talk to that person or even smile at them. When Elon and President Trump talk about the young men dying on the battlefields of Ukraine, and Democrats and Russians can't speak to that, President Trump convinces me by his attitude and commitment that he really cares. He doesn't want those young men to die. Would you agree with all this I've been talking about?
Yes, it's so good.
Rambling along because I'm so trying to figure it out.
Well, you know, that's what good girlfriends do. We just keep talking until we begin to understand, or at least it makes us feel better just to, you know, be a sounding board to each other. But I feel that same kind of empathy and really gratitude for President Trump. I mean, he's just put so much on the line to run again, you know, for the presidency. He didn't need any more fame or fortune or attention or money. I mean, he has just had to endure lawsuits and indictments and assassination attempts. And just imagine the impact on his family as well. I had a daughter from another mother. She was a friend of my daughter's, and she went to law school with President Trump's daughter, Tiffany, who is expecting a baby right now. And she said there were guards outside of every one of Tiffany's classes that she had with Tiffany. And she said, you would have thought the professors would hold back a little bit. This was, you know, when it was his first term when he was president, 2016 to 2020. And she said the teachers were just so rude about her dad right in front of her. And then Barron goes to university now at NYU in New York City. And I've got some of my kids' friends go there in New York City. And one of them was just saying how liberal and just the professors are just reeking with venom. So I'm sure Barron has to sit there in class and, you know, take it on the chin about his father and his father's, you know, people that are surrounding and working with him. And so, you know, the impact not only on his family, President Trump, him, but his children as well. And so I just think the price that they've all paid is unimaginable. And we just can't even understand the sacrifice and the toll that it takes, and let alone, you know, Elon Musk saying, you know, we talked about it on last week's podcast, saying that, you know, what I'm exposing here could shorten my life because these people in high positions are desperate and they don't want to be found out. But, you know, I love his love of America because he understands, you know, he's worried about our strength because he said, look, We are the columns, I heard him say, that hold up other countries. And if our columns deteriorate and weaken, we're going to take the rest of the world down as well. And so they really, I feel with their heart, they're doing this for the right reasons. When America does well, all ships rise. When we're a light on the world, we elevate and we give light to everyone. And so, that's really, I feel the sincerity. I don't know, we might be duped, Deb, but these guys are not doing it for power, fame, fortune, money. They got all that,
You're right. And I don't think we will be duped if, we talk about God a lot, and I have always prayed for discernment. I want to be able to know people and to know where their heart is. It feels like that what we are seeing in Washington is like lightning in a bottle, and we need to make the most of this time that we've been given. But I think if we use our discernment skills, and I'm sure our listeners know what that means, where we just seem to be able to recognize what's happening within a person and whether their attitude is right and where they are going with it. If we do that, we have a better chance of not being duped. Julene, I really believe that.
Well, we need the Spirit of God to be with us to able to discern, like you say, what is true, what is a lie here. I mean, it seems like to me we have a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've never seen it in my lifetime to go in and change the world through changing our country, which will, of course, have rippling effects. And, our founder said we had a manifest destiny to be an example and a blessing to the entire human race. And it's as if President Trump is got that mission deep in his heart and has put men and women around him who share that same vision, and they are going for it. So it is wonderful. But, before we conclude today, there's something very exciting going on with RFK Jr. He was I'm in Utah right now, doing a little bit of business here with my husband, and RFK Jr. was here yesterday, and he met with one of my dear friends that just won a seat in the House legislature because she
wonderful.
passed some pro-Maha bills. And so he came and he spoke, I'm sure, to the legislature. And it's really exciting to see him taking this monstrosity, 465 pages of dietary guidelines under Biden and shrinking it down to 3 pages. And it's so interesting. I'm seeing firsthand the impact that this is having. My own daughter, who is going to give birth to our first grandchild here in a few weeks. I was so excited, but she all along was going to vaccinate that little babe, and she's begun to study, and she's begun to, look the data and the research. And last week she said, Mom, that my little babe will be getting no vaccines. And so I'm seeing firsthand how it's impacting my home. Mamas are waking up and realizing their children have never been sicker than ever. There's a war on the children. And, RFK Jr., when I attended that Maha roundtable with him about a month ago in Washington, D.C., he said big business and big pharma and the food industry is way more terrified of mothers waking up and realizing what's going on than anything that he might do at the Health and Human Services Agency. And it's because mamas hold the purse strings, right? They will just stop buying products. They'll just stop, getting the vaccinations. And so they're worried that mamas are waking up, and they are.
You are right, Julene. And we are on the same page, but we have different reasons for why we think different things. So I'm going to wait and see what he does, because I want those checkoff boxes for myself. But I can see his heart and his Robert Kennedy's desire to help others. In fact, next week, you and I are going to be together for our podcast. Yay! And you are going to have a chance to get me on board with Maha. And I'm looking forward to it. You guys, our listeners, need to hold on to your hat for next week, because we are going to have fun together and we're going to do some crazy things. And I think you're going to enjoy the show next week. But while we're on this subject, what about all the other lies that are being brought to light? I can't believe that the IRS doesn't have a secure website. I heard that about 20% of the taxpayers are being attacked by criminals because the IRS doesn't demand verification. Representative Burchett of Tennessee pointed out that the self-verification systems at local doctors' offices are more secure than federal payment systems. How can that be, Julene?
I don't know. I heard Elon again at a town hall meeting in Wisconsin recently talk about how there's scammers, I think maybe within the system, that are stealing Social Security and ID information and then selling them to people, selling Social Security numbers to people. And then the people are going and collecting Social Security and scamming the federal government. And I don't know, did you hear about that one? I was like,
no, I didn't, but I did hear a newscast that said, what was it, 2 million, they found 2 million illegals had Social Security numbers and were collecting Social Security checks, which they did not pay in for. So, yeah, that fits right along with what you said.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can't make this up. I mean, real life is better than fiction any day of the week. You know?
Yeah, really. Well, I think all of this is awful. We have to get this massive government under control and on the way to fiscal accountability. And part of that is tariffs. That's been happening this week, too. I've been checking a lot into how they work and if they're good for America. And there's a lot of conservatives that think President Trump shouldn't be doing it. And yet this week, a lot of other countries are giving in to Trump and are making deals with America. And I heard today, 2 days ago, the stock market crashed. We're all going to die. And then now today, the stock market is up and we're all going to live happily ever after. But we're afraid of tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow? Yeah. I take a more even kill. Do you, Elaine?
Well, and President Trump and his cabinet has said, look, you got to be patient. It's going to feel a little hard initially, but already 75 countries have reached out to U.S. representatives and want to negotiate here. And just today, I don't know if you saw it, it's hot off the presses, President Trump has actually put forth a 90-day pause on the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, and he is keeping the tariffs that are 10% across the board. So they're just kind of, we've got 75 countries that have reached out and now want to start to play nice. And so he's playing nice, except for China, because they raised their tariff another 35%, so 60%. So President Trump has raised the tariff to 125% just because of the lack of respect that China is showing world markets. So, I mean, once again, get your popcorn, because every day, this negotiation, this back and forth is better than any, movie in the theater right now. And so
I was just thinking, wow, we just need a big TV in front of us all the time. Give me my popcorn because I'm going to watch the show.
But, it only makes sense to me that, America has been ripped off for decades. It's been free trade, not fair trade, that, people have charged us high tariffs and we haven't charged them anything at the expense of jobs and manufacturing. Has undercut American business. And so he just wants to level the playing field now, and I just saw that Hyundai is committed to investing $20 billion into our country to build plants now. Hyundai's, I think they're a Korean car manufacturer. So this is what we're going to begin to see. Jobs are going to come back to America. And, once again, when America does well, everyone does well in the world.
That's right. Oh, we have had a big show today, and I have enjoyed all this, and there's never enough time to discuss it all. So thank all of our listeners for joining us. My tip for today is don't only check out what someone professes to be. Always check the eyes. Always look for true emotion and always respond to a person who genuinely cares. Julene?
Mine is walk without headphones on. You got to let your thoughts breathe. There is so much noise in the world, and we're always plugged into radios and TVs and even podcasts. Don't hop off yet, but after this podcast, unplug and let your thoughts breathe. I think Jesus tells us when we are still, that's when we begin to receive inspiration, right? Be still and know that he is out there and he's got us. And that's how we get divine bursts of inspiration when we're not plugged in. So walk without headphones today. I'm going for a walk right after this podcast. I'm leaving my headphones at home and I'm going to let my thoughts breathe.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that, Julene. What a wonderful way to end our show. Thank you for being with us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie@debbiejansen.com. And especially today and every day, thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jensen. We have been talking to him and we're going to interview him at some point. He's quite an amazing guy. This is Debbie Jansen and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson, and we hope you will keep sticking to the truth. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.